Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Gaur Premanande, Shri Prabhupada ki. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. taking readings from Srimad Bhagavatam 7th Canto, Chapter 9, Text 42. Ko natra ke laguro bhagavan prayasa Uttaranesya bhavasam bhavalopaheto Mudeshvai mahad anugra artabandho Kim te na te priyajanan anusevatam na Konata te kilo guru bhagavan prayasa Uttaranesya bhavasam bhavalopaheto Mudeshu vai mahad anugraha artabandho Kim te nata priyajanan anusevatam na Konatra ke gilo guru bhagavan prayasa Uttaranesya bhavasam bhavalopaheto Kim te na te priyajanan anusevatam na Konatra ke kila guru bhagavan prayasha What is that? New, indeed. Atra, in this matter. Te, of your lordship. Akila Guru, O supreme spiritual master of the entire creation. Bhagavan, O supreme lord, O personality of Godhead. Prayasa, endeavor. Uttarane, for the deliverance of these fallen souls. Asya, of this. Bhavasambhava, of creation and maintenance. lopa, and of annihilation, heto, of the cause, mudeshu, of the foolish persons rotting in this material world. Vai, indeed, mahat anugraha, compassion by the Supreme. Artabandho, O friend of the suffering living entities. Kim, what is the difficulty? Tena, with that. Te, of your lordship. Priyajanan, the dear persons, devotees. Anusevatam, of those always engaged in serving. Na, like us, who are so engaged. Translation purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us, who engage in your service. Purport. Here the words Priya Janan Anusevatam Na indicate that the Supreme Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is very favorable to devotees who act according to the instructions of his own pure devotee. In other words, one must become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. If one wants to become the servant of the Lord directly, this is not as fruitful as engaging in the service of the Lord's servant. This is the direction of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who shows us the way to become Gopi Bhartur Padakamalayur Das Das Anudas. One should not be proud of becoming directly the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rather, one must seek a pure devotee, a servant of the Lord, and engage oneself in the service of such a servant. The more one becomes a servant of the servant, the more one becomes perfect in devotional service. This is also the injunction of Bhagavad Gita, Evam Parampara Praptam Ivam Rajar Sayo Vidu. One can understand the science of the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the Parampara system. In this regard, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Tandera Charana Sevi Bhakta Sanivas. Let me serve the lotus feet of the devotees of the Lord, and let me live with devotees. Janame Janame Hoy E Abhilas. Following Narottam Das Thakur, one should aspire to be a servant of the Lord's servant, life after life. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur also sings, Tumita Thakur, Tomara Kura, Baila Janaha More. O my Lord, O Vaishnava, please consider me your dog. One must become the dog of a Vaishnava, a pure devotee, for a pure devotee can deliver Krishna without difficulty. Krishna se tomara, Krishna dite para. Krishna is the property of his pure devotee, and if we take shelter of a pure devotee, he can deliver Krishna very easily. Prahlad wants to engage in the service of a devotee, and therefore he prays to Krishna, My dear Lord, kindly give me the shelter of your very dear devotee so that I may engage in his service, and you may then be pleased. Mad bhakta puja bhyadika. The Lord says, engaging in the service of my devotee is better than trying to engage in my devotional service. Another significant point in this verse is that by devotional service, Prahlad Maharaj does not want to benefit alone. Rather, he prays to the Lord that all of us fallen souls in this condition, in this material world, may, by the grace of the Lord, engage in the service of his servant and thus be delivered. The grace of the Lord is not at all difficult for the Lord to bestow, and thus Prahlad Maharaj wants to save the whole world by spreading Krishna consciousness. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gunanjanashalakaya Chakshurumilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadhamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Eva Chapaditanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Translation repeated. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, original spiritual master of the entire world, what is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? You are the friend of all suffering humanity, and for great personalities it is necessary to show mercy to the foolish. Therefore I think that you will show your causeless mercy to persons like us who engage in your service. Hare Krishna. Ask for the blessings of all the devotees. Very nice subject matter. So we are continuing these very wonderful prayers of Prahlad Maharaj and covering different topics. Yesterday we were hearing about the compassion. And when we think of Prahlad Maharaj, generally we think of his compassionate nature, the desire for the welfare of all living entities. And in this verse, we are getting a glimpse of how Krishna manifests that reciprocation and that mercy to other living entities. That the greatest mercy of Krishna is the Lord sending his devotee, sending his pure devotee into the life of a sincere aspirant. This is described as actually getting the Lord's mercy when one receives the spiritual master in one's life. This is described as directly the mercy of Hari, of Krishna. So, a lot of nice points here. But basically, this translation in Srila Prabhupada's purport, this is describing actually the simple formula of how one makes progress and advancement by the service of the Lord's devotee. The general tendency in material existence is that we want to try to be independent. That's why we're here. We want to try to be the Lord and the controller ourselves. So Krishna's transcendental system, or the means by which he trains us, is actually through the pure devotee, spiritual master. That it offers us a challenge. It offers us a challenge to submit, to surrender, to accept a higher perspective, perhaps, than our own. So, and the interesting thing about devotional life is the more the servant of all the devotees that we become, the more exalted we become in Krishna's perspective. So this is the simple it's very straightforward. There's not so much, Prabhupada would say simple for the simple. But really the mercy comes when we're able to put ourselves in a lower position and really culture this mood of service to the spiritual master, to others, to the devotees, without getting this is a foundational principle, the humble mood of service, or it's described here, the servant of the servant of the servant. These are like the floodgates for all the mercy to come into our life. And if we don't accept this principle, then we can do so much service, what seems like service. We can do so many activities. We can read so many books. But that flow of mercy can't come into our life, right? Evam parapraptam imam rajar sayovidu. One can understand the science of Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by the parampara system. This is how it works. This is how the mercy comes. It has to be transmitted. So to become receptive to that, we have to humble ourselves. Humble thyself, and I will exalt thee. Right? You remember that? So the tendency, we want to serve Krishna directly. And there's some very interesting verses that I might share. But actually that's described as the manifestation of our pride. I want to become directly the servant of Krishna. Naturally, we want to have a relationship. We want to have an intimate personal relationship with Krishna. But we have to carefully understand the process, because Prahlad Maharaj is taking the position. He's saying, I belong to this group of fallen humanity. What is the hope for us? So to speak of ourselves, we're in the Kali Yuga, the Kali Yuga section of fallen souls. So we have to acknowledge this position and repent and take this humble mentality for serving the Lord's devotee. We can see throughout Scripture this is how devotees get the mercy of the Lord. They get the mercy of devotee, like here Prahlad Maharaj, by his association with Narada, even within the womb. There's always a devotee. No one has ever achieved perfection or liberation without the association of the devotee. And we see also in the history of this movement, the great devotees, they're so dedicated. This is their primary component. They're completely surrendered and dedicated to their guru. So many amazing Prabhupada disciples. This becomes their crowning quality and characteristic, and actually the means by which they reach perfection. And what is the mercy then? Once that, as I described, that the mercy can come through that, through this disciplic succession. The mercy is that actually we realize what we're doing. Because we've come to Krishna consciousness, we've come to this movement, we're doing so many very extremely auspicious, high-grade, devotional, pure activities, but we don't really realize what we're doing, the magnanimity of what we're doing. Like actually being in front of Krishna, associating with his devotees, serving a pure devotee, serving his representative. Devotees are worshiping the Lord on the altar. All these things, even studying Shastra together, doing kirtan, it can be either like a material activity or the highest expression of our submission and love to God, based on the consciousness and based on this principle of submission. We know that Krishna reciprocates with our mood and our mentality. So the more menial service mood that we have, the more Krishna can put that mercy in our life. So this concept entails a few things. It means there has to be that personal relationship with the devotee who can actually train one, or someone who knows the candidate. And that personal relationship has to be there. And there has to be the giving and receiving of instructions and the submission to that superior order. And this is how the Lord offers his protection. We hear, I think it's called Poshana in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Lord's protection. This is one of the topics. And that is the most comforting thing, when we actually feel the Lord's protection in our life. And we can actually fix our mind. We can remember the Lord in any circumstance of life. That's the greatest shelter. And that protection also comes through the devotees who can protect us from our own mind, our own sense, our own misdirected desires. Having that show, that's how the Lord manifests his protection. So, on a few of these points I wanted to share a few references here. And we see this is the characteristic mood of the devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's saying here, Gopi Bhartor, Padakamalayur, Dasa Anudas. This is Chaitanya, we're in the Gaudiya, we're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's setting the standard. And we see in this Gaudiya Vaishnava culture how exquisite it is, how the devotees are always trying to take the lower, more menial position of each other and serve each other. And seeing this, Lord Chaitanya becomes very much satisfied. So, Srila Prabhupada has very much expressed this point throughout his books and writings. But the interesting few verses very relevant here to the text, that he says, what is the difficulty for you who manage the affairs of the universe in delivering the fallen souls engaged in your devotional service? Like, it's not difficult for Krishna to deliver one. And sometimes we also get concerned, how is Krishna going to deliver me? So, this is explained here in a few nice sections of Srila Prabhupada's books. This is from the Bhagavatam, the 4th canto, 8th chapter, text 71, purport. The way of perfection for the disciple is to act according to the instruction of the spiritual master. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also advises that if we want to be successful in our attempt to go back to Godhead, we must very seriously act according to the instruction of the spiritual master. That is the way of perfection. There need be no anxiety over attaining perfection, because if one follows the instruction given by the spiritual master, he is sure to attain perfection. Our only concern should be how to execute the order of the spiritual master. A spiritual master is expert in giving special instructions to each of his disciples, and if the disciple executes the order of the spiritual master, that is the way of his perfection. Sometimes we get caught up on, going, how I'm going to go back, is Krishna going to deliver me? But the principle actually is, by the sincere service, one very easily goes back to Godhead. Prabhupada says here, there need be no anxiety if one takes to that very seriously. Here's another one from the 4th canto. This is describing the sons of Prachinabarhi when they meet Lord Shiva. In text 15. When all the sons of Prachinabarhi left home to execute austerities, they met Lord Shiva, who out of great mercy instructed them about the absolute truth. All the sons of Prachinabarhi meditated upon the instructions, chanting and worshipping them with great care and attention. Purport: it is clear that to perform penances or austerities, or for that matter, any form of devotional service, one has to be guided by a spiritual master. Here it is clearly stated that the 10 sons of Maharaj Prachinabarhi were favored by an appearance of Lord Shiva, who out of great kindness gave them instructions regarding the execution of austerities. Lord Shiva actually became the spiritual master of the 10 sons, and in turn his disciples took his words so seriously that simply by meditating upon his instructions, dhyayantaha, they became perfect. This is the secret of success. After being initiated and receiving the orders of the spiritual master, the disciple should unhesitatingly think about the instructions or orders of the spiritual master and should not allow himself to be disturbed by anything else. This is also the verdict of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, who, while explaining a verse of Bhagavad Gita 241, points out that the order of the spiritual master is the life substance of the disciple. The disciple shouldn't consider whether he is going back home, back to Godhead. His first business should be to execute the order of the spiritual master. Thus, a disciple should always meditate on the order of the spiritual master, and that is perfectional meditation. Not only should he meditate upon that order, but he should find out the means by which he can perfectly worship it and execute it. So these are just a few from the 4th canto, but we understand very consistently this has been described as the secret of success and very elaborately described throughout Prabhupada's books. So I'll just share a few more references here. This is some very nice collection of verses just to extol this position, because this is actually more satisfying than glorifying Krishna is the glorification of his devotee. And there's some references here. Srimad in the 11th canto. Madbhakta puja pyadika sarva bhuteshu manmati. Worshipping my devotees is better than worshipping me directly. And this is, I think this is quoted from Padma Purana. My dear Devi, although the Vedas recommend worship of demigods, the worship of Lord Vishnu is topmost. However, above the worship of Lord Vishnu is the rendering of service to Vaishnavas who are related to Lord Vishnu. And Krishna himself, he describes, Ye me bhakta jana parta, ne me bhaktas chate jana, mad bhaktyanam cha ye bhaktas, tame bhakta tama mataha. My dear Partha, one who claims to be my devotee is not so. Only a person who claims to be a devotee of my devotee is actually my devotee. And again, the Supreme Personality of God has declared in the Vedas and Srimad Bhagavatam, worship of my devotees is superior to worship of me. If anyone worships his spiritual master first and then me, he certainly achieves perfection. Otherwise, his worship remains fruitless. And those who worship the Supreme Lord but are indifferent to the worship of his devotees are eligible for punishment by the Lord of Death, Yamaraj. And this is very interesting from the 11th canto purport. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has pointed out that the original cause of offending the Lord and falling down from one's position is one's not learning how to properly worship a bona fide spiritual master. One who is trained to offer respectful obeisances and worship to the bona fide spiritual master automatically offers proper respect to the Supreme Lord. Without the mercy of a bona fide spiritual master, even a so-called religious man will gradually become atheistic, offend the Lord by foolish speculation, and fall into a hellish condition of life. And this is another nice one. Worship of the Lord without worship of a devotee is simply a manifestation of false pride. One who performs worship of Lord Govinda but fails to worship his devotees should be understood not to be a devotee but simply a victim of false pride. So, yeah, this just continues. The principle is first the Guru Kripa, then Krishna Kripa. From Prabhupada's lecture here in 1975. To understand Vedic literature means one must have firm faith in Krishna and firm faith in Guru. Not that my Guru is not so learned, so let me capture Krishna directly. That is useless. That is useless. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Guru Krishna Kripaya, Paya Bhakti Lata Bij. One can get the seed or the plant, a creeper of bhakti, how? Guru Krishna Kripa, by the mercy of Guru and the mercy of Krishna. Not that Krishna Kripa. First Guru Kripa, then Krishna Kripa. So, yes, this continues on and on as we've described. Very key principle. And to conclude, I'll just offer a very nice practical example of this in the lives of ISKCON's history. We understand that His Grace Jayananda Prabhu is particularly extolled, and while I was doing a little research on this, I just came across some nice points in relation. It was helpful to see an example of these principles, and amongst so many devotees, he really exemplifies this principle, the humble service, and very dear and surrendered to Srila Prabhupada, his guru. So here's just to kind of, I guess, add the, demonstration aspect. This is a description of Jayananda's service attitude. We all just become purified just by hearing these things. Jayananda was always ready to do whatever was necessary to push on Krishna consciousness. He was expert at everything: cooking, preaching, deity worship, public relations, sankirtans, selling incense, construction, and everything else it takes to run a temple. He was a tireless worker. He would be the first one up in the morning and the last one to sleep at night. It was Jayananda who was always running out to get the flowers, Jayananda who was washing dishes and making sure the kitchen was clean, Jayananda who was often missing class while he was out doing some service, and Jayananda who was always encouraging others to go out and preach, setting the example himself. Whatever assignment he was given, he would always get it done, even if he had to suffer personally for it. No matter how hard he was working, he would never stop for a nap during the day. He seemed to be inexhaustible. In later years, when he was with Radha Damodar traveling Sankirtan party, Jayananda would help manage and sustain the traveling bus program and simultaneously do all-day Sankirtan day in and day out, side by side with brahmacharis scarcely half his age. In spite of his advanced position and seniority, he never asked for any special treatment. Leading devotees would often describe him as, quote, the most advanced devotee in the movement. And a little of his relationship with Prabhupada. Jayananda said of Srila Prabhupada, I knew he didn't want to cheat me, so I wanted to work for him. In his dealings with Srila Prabhupada, Jayananda kept his usual low profile. He was generally off working on some project when Srila Prabhupada came to San Francisco. The relationship was, therefore, one of old friends. Jayananda did not go in for long meetings with Srila Prabhupada, even when all the other temple leaders were doing so. By way of reciprocation, Srila Prabhupada would invariably call for Jayananda when he arrived in the temple. Sometimes he would have to make repeated requests. And when Jayananda was finally located, he was just saying, no, I can't go to see him. I'm too dirty. I'm too fallen. He'd work after festivals and let others see Srila Prabhupada. Thus, his relationship with Srila Prabhupada was always one of service. Service to Prabhupada was the core of Jayananda's life. Once Dandavir asked him, how does one make spiritual advancement in Krishna consciousness? Jayananda answered, I don't know. I'm too busy working to think about it. And etc. But anyway, you can research that. There's some nice books, etc. But I was also describing his humility, his selflessness, never expecting any remuneration for his services, and never finding fault with any of the devotees. So it just seemed like a kind of prime example of this topic of developing this humble mood of service. And he was always never to put himself first, always to, even amongst more junior devotees, glorify them and never receive their glorification. So anyway, this is a pretty straightforward topic, so just a few comments on it. And thank you very much for your time. Maybe there's some comments or questions, discussion or anything. Yes.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for your class. Correct me if I'm wrong on that Jayananda pastime. Have you heard that devotees were envious of Jayananda when he was able to sleep in Bhagavatam class, and Prabhupada said it's okay, he could sleep? Have you heard that?
I haven't heard of that. Yeah.
Okay, let me just check it. So my question is based on, it's pretty loud, Mike. The first verse I was reading recently, that Prabhupada, in Journey of the Self-Discovery a few days ago, he was describing the first verse of the Guru Vaishnava prayers, Samsada Davana, the first verse, where the spiritual masters compared to a cloud and Krishna is the ocean of mercy. And that could put out the fire of material existence. So Prabhupada explains that the spiritual master doesn't have mercy to give himself. He doesn't arrogantly think I have mercy to give. He says, I take the ocean of mercy from Krishna and I give the mercy of Krishna. So what should our disposition be? Because that could also, this verse kind of answered, but it also could exhibit a lack of gratitude. Like when you're dealing with devotees, all the pujaris are spending like 10 hours dressing the deities. Oh, they didn't do that, Krishna did it. They're just conduits, or any servers, the kuts, you know. So what should our mentality be, you know, in that regard? I mean, this verse kind of answered it, but maybe you collaborate on it. For ourselves, we shouldn't seem like we should have mercy to give, but for others, the servant of the servant. So maybe you collaborate on that. Because, for example, a newcomer may see Prabhupada as arrogant, you know. Why are we singing Jaya Prabhupada? You just said that, you know, only Krishna has mercy to give. So especially for newcomers, why are we singing to glories of Prabhupada if Krishna is the only one who has mercy to give?
Yeah, the key of success is that the devotee becomes the instrument to manifest the Lord's mercy, the Lord's grace. Krishna himself is the one who's doing everything, actually. But we become exalted when we're able to become his instrument. When we're able to allow his potency, devotional potency, to flow through us. So that's our work, that's the free will part. The more we endeavor and continue to strive to make ourselves a competent medium for that mercy to flow. And Krishna wants to give credit to the devotee. Krishna wants, that's why, you know, you can see Arjuna, he wanted to give the credit to Arjuna. He said, oh, they're already killed by me. If you fight, you'll get the credit. So this is also Krishna's humility. And what pleases Krishna? What really pleases Krishna? Seeing his devotees glorified. You know, Krishna's heart, the devotees are in, Krishna says, devotees are in my heart, and I'm in their heart. So, Krishna likes to see that, and he wants us all to continually just strive in that direction more and more. But it's never that, you know, we disregard the devotees are a constituent of the absolute truth. So the most respect is given, simultaneously understanding that they're empowered to do that by the mercy of Krishna. Is that okay?
Just one brief question about, you were mentioning that if one doesn't serve the spiritual master, one needs the mercy of the spiritual master. So this reminds me of one book that Jitendriya had downstairs by Shiva Ramaswamy. It was explaining the importance of Shiksha Guru. He was explaining basically in that book that a lot of times the emphasis on Diksha Guru, and a lot of times we don't kind of consider the people who are there with us every day.
Yeah.
And as an expression of gratitude. So his whole book was based upon that. I don't really formulate a question, but maybe you could elaborate on that, how important it is, because a lot of times people are like, let me just get the mercy of my Shiksha Guru, you know.
Well, by following the Siksha Guru, then one is serving the Diksha Guru, because the Diksha Guru may put one under the service of the Siksha Guru. Therefore, to serve them very nicely, that's service to the Diksha Guru. That will make the Diksha Guru pleased. So it's still service to Guru. There may be another personality there, but the operative principle is getting the spiritual master mercy, which will come when he's pleased by our service. It may not be to many different devotees in many different circumstances, but that relationship is primary, and then it manifests in so many ways. And then those other relationships are also important, and that they also become channels, a medium for that protection and mercy of the Lord to flow. Did you want to say something? Okay. Of course.
Your point of being an instrument is that's why we glorify the devotees. Thank you for saying that. To add to it, another point to add to it is that Krishna's mercy is not accessible without the devotees. Although Krishna is the one doing it, or extending his mercy, without the devotees, one doesn't have access. Just like on the Sunday home program, there was the mention of, you want electricity, you have to go to the socket in the wall. You can't go to the powerhouse and say, I want to charge my phone. It's not possible. You can't access. It needs to come down to 110 volts at the wall here. Or if there is a forest fire and you want water, you can't go to the ocean and get that water. It has to come from a rain cloud. And it is for these reasons that the devotees of Krishna, the spiritual master in this context of other devotees, are glorified because those are the points of contact with Krishna's mercy. And that's why they're called instruments.
Thank you.
I want to add something that from Nectar of Devotion, we studied in Bhakti Shastri class that when a devotee glorifies about a pure devotee, it purifies him. That's a very important point. That verse I forgot. I think from Bhagavatam.
Krishna says, I myself am purified by the dust of my pure devotees. And that's Krishna's mood, appreciation. Jai, anything else? Thank you all very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Thai Corporate.